Hello YouTubers, welcome to my channel Science Technology. In today's show, Computer Witness Day, we're going to talk about underwater server update from 2025. So let's dive deep into it. So what exactly is the problem that we have to dunk the server in the sea? Well, reality is our world's hunger for compute is going bonkers at this point in time, meaning we can't have enough of it. Meaning if you are manufacturing it, before you actually manage to ship those puppy, it will be all sold out. That's how stupid demand is right now. And the primary reason behind that is AI boom that is happening. It is bad out there. Let's just put it that way. Meaning you can't manufacture it fast enough. And I mean in whole supply chain, not even a single company able to keep up. Demand is bonkersly high. Now, okay, that's a good problem to have, right? It's like, why can't you just make more server farms? Well, you can make it, and people are trying to make it, but problem is they are reaching a point where the power drain is so goddamn high that almost nobody can afford it. And I'm not joking, there are some people who are actually thinking, hey, we're gonna make our own nuclear plant, that's how we can have the power. And I'm laughing here. It's like, bro, the boom will be bust by that time, before even first nuclear plant comes online. Like, you'd be lucky, like, I mean bonkersly lucky if you even have one nuclear power plant functional for this puppy by 2030. Like, just on the paperwork, remove the technology, assume you have Tony Stark in your team, you still won't be able to do it. So that's the reality of it. And let's assume you manage the power somehow. Another issue is water drain. It takes too goddamn high. Like, it drains so much water from a river to a reservoir that it can drain it. Like, this is worse than what a coal power plant does. Like, this just drinks it. It's like, and many places it is getting double whammy simply because now coal power plants have to run their units. Generally, coal power plants have multiple units. So they have 1 unit, 2 units, 3. Low unit demands, they're like, just put one on the full and keep another in standby. Because of these random demands, random as in like, there was no demand, they were actually trying to shut it down, and they're like, whoa, turn all these units on. Yeah, that puppy is drinking water like there is no tomorrow. The data center itself is drinking water like there is no tomorrow. So it's bad at this point in time. Meaning it's so bad that it is hurting China, it is hurting USA, it's hurting European nation. Any but Tom, Dick and Harry who's trying to do it, it's hurting them. That's how bad it is. And then why don't people just like, you know what, this is just not a healthy thing to do? Well, competition is too goddamn high, and right now it's the thing. Because again, I can easily see in few decades time that silicon technology would become something simple, that more and more people will have it, more decentralized production. Of course there will be some golden boys, but most of the people would be like, yeah, we can manufacture. Most countries will able to manufacture it, be it India, Vietnam, Mexico and all that. Like, eventually we'll reach there. So that's not, but here's it. What's after that? What do you do on those silicon? So that is the thing that is happening right now. So, and failing to solve this issue means you will left behind, and that is the current gold rush. Whether it's gonna, like, yield gold or not, we do not know, but it is a rush at this point in time. So if the problem is it's too goddamn high, it drinks water like there is no tomorrow, we have to solve that. So why it is this bad? Well, problem is it's just a heater. When you are dealing with a, let's say, water pump, you have 10 megawatt water pump, but here's the, what is the waste heat? It would be less than 1 megawatt. Actually, it would be very few, very little, like hundreds of kilowatts of waste heat. Why? Because most of the energy is being spent by moving the water from A to B. But when you're talking about this, there is no action being done. It's not a LED that is emitting the energy in photons. Even if you're like, okay, what about the optical fiber? It's minuscule. As in, like, it would be consuming hundreds of watt, and 10 to 15 watts would be sent out in terms of optical. So inherently it's just a room heater. Meaning, if you are dealing with a thermal engineer who is like scaling the system for that, all they will ask is like, what is your PSU requirement? Like, if you say, okay, my per rack PSU requirement is like 200 kilowatts, they're like, okay, that's a 200 kilowatt heater. The end. There is nothing after than that. It's just like, okay, 200. They'll also add some buffer, and they're like, okay, I'm gonna assume this is a 250 kilowatt heater, room heater, powerful room heater. So that's the whole point. And we are increasing the power draw of the SoCs, meaning back in the days, the amount of power each blade is consuming right now was the enough power for the whole rack. Like, power draw has went bonkers. Like, we are reaching a point where each compute card, like a compute card itself, is consuming 600 plus. And there could be 4 compute card in one blade, and there could be as high as 25, if not more blade in one rack. Like, it is bonkers out there, and people are trying, what if we put 50 kilowatts there? What if we put 500 kilowatt? It's like, I'm not joking, there are some people like, okay, what if you directly dunk it into a refrigerant so we can cool it? So, and again, that's the thermal limitation. Like silicon is like, oh, you want power? I can eat power. It's just thermal things are like, whoa, 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 whoa. So, and here's the deal. To give you a context, what kind of heat we are talking about, moving that much heat from A to B is costing energy now. Like it's not just like, oh, it's gonna move. No, it's so concentrated. If you do not forcefully remove it, it will fry itself. Now, again, modern system will not fry itself. It will just downclock to uselessness. So you have to take basically heat from the hardware which is generating it, dump it into a medium, which many of these scenarios is water. And again, because of the so much heat and so much surface area required to couple that heat, it's hundreds of horsepower consumed just on the goddamn pumps. And then you have to send it all to the cooled sink, wherever that may be. So you can understand just the movement of heat itself is brutal. So if you have fans, it will sound like a jet engine. If you have liquid, the pumps will sound like a jet engine. So it is bad. And how do we cool this behemoth at this point? Evaporative cooling. There is nothing else that can actually scale up to that. So what we do is generally have a refrigeration system. Like, okay, if you have refrigeration system, why not dump the heat into air? Here's the deal. If you know your refrigerators or even air condition, they have a temperature rating of outdoor, meaning if it goes more than this, yeah, it's kaput. For example, a small household units that we have, like 1 ton, 1 to 1.5 ton, they generally only rated for 51 degrees Celsius. If you know any weather satellite data, you know we are repeatedly exceeding 60 degrees Celsius. Like air temperature, like literally is that hot. You have to design things that can work at 65. That's why people are looking into like CO2 supercritical system and all that. That could work at that sort of temperature. So right now, if you have a basically direct coupled system, basically you take the heat from one side of the refrigerant, dump it into air, it will just not work. Like it just does not have enough oomph to do that right now. So what we do is basically have the normal refrigeration cycle that is doing. It takes heat from the one side, as in like your servers, dump it into another medium. The another medium generally is a shell and tube heat exchanger. Shell and tube heat exchanger generally have a cooling medium. That cooling medium is water. Water goes into a radiator. Now like, okay, then why water is being lost? That radiator is open. It's basically a swamp cooler. There is nothing else. If the outdoor temperature is cool, it's nice. You do not lose water. If it is bad, hot and dry, you drink water. So that's how we are dealing with this megawatt, hundreds of megawatt. And like, I'm not joking, there are some hyper clusters that are touching gigawatt scale. And you do not want to look into how much water they drink. And I mean, seriously do not want to look into it, because it makes city look like, you know, very efficient. That's how bad it is. Because again, these things work. They just like, it's not like, oh, office building in the daytime, household buildings, residential in the evening time. No, it's 24/7. It's brutal. So fundamentally speaking, it just drinks too much water. And but mindful, the same penalty applies to the coal power plant that is trying to feed it. So it's like double whammy at this point in time. So heat is bad. Let that be very clear. It is bad. So the solution is, why not dunk it into the ocean? Why would you want to do that? Well, here's the deal. This is the worst case scenario. If you find, let's say, India, and you're like, okay, in the Sri Lanka place, you directly dunk the server there. It still would be better than in atmosphere. Why? You're maximum gonna get 30 degrees Celsius. Let's assume hyper worst case scenario, 35 degrees Celsius. All you have to do is go few meters deep, not hundreds of meter deep. If you go hundreds of meters, the temperature starts to go down. Heck, if you go really deep, like let's say 1 kilometer deep, at that point in time, you do not need cooling. Like you do not need movement. A refrigerant can literally boil off from the hot parts of the CPU and go to the radiator, that is the cold sink, and it will condense there on its own. That's how much thermal gradient is there. And again, thermal capacity is like, don't worry about it. It can digest a nuclear warhead and be like, did you do something? So flat out, more than enough oomph is there. 30 degrees Celsius, which is much lower than land temperature. Another, go few meters deep, it starts to drop very drastically, and it remains stable 24/7 to 365. Now, of course, there is a bit of fluctuation, and that's why you want to go as deep as possible. So first they will start with like, okay, let's put a 5 to 10 meters deep. Then they're like, okay, let's try to 50 meters deep. Eventually, the target is to go as deep as possible, like while keeping the cost on. So you have to balance the cost. If you go 100 meters deep, it's like, bro, don't worry about it. Even I'm talking like in the deep tropical places, you don't have to worry about it. So, and another benefit is that water has bonkers amount of heat capacity. So let's assume you have 30 degrees Celsius air temperature versus 30 degrees Celsius water. 30 degrees Celsius water is much better. Why? Because you have to dump so much energy before water go from 30 degrees Celsius to 31 degrees Celsius. Air will just go to 31 very quickly. So that heat capacity allows you to work far more effectively even at an elevated temperature. And if it's a cold temperature, GG, don't worry about it. And here's the critical part. What is the second thing that fiber needs in terms of infrastructure? Let's assume you have cooling. Let's assume you have power. What is the third most important thing? Fiber connection. It needs the best fiber. Where is the world's best fiber laid? Undersea. All the world's connection is under the sea. If you literally at the coastal area, you have the sea. You can even do direct taps if you want to and be like, bro, we good. Hundreds of terabyte per second direct between countries. Like, you good, you got this. So that's also there. So it's a very perfect place on paper where it's like, it's not that hard. Awesome. 24 into 7 into 365 stable. Awesome. And it does not change in temperature even if you dump hundreds of megawatt. Again, we have tested nukes in these puppies and they're like, bro, don't waste our time. So all those things, and fiber is already there, which again, in certain places is like that fiber trenching itself costs a lot. So this is the ideal solution for humanity's stupendous growth in basically compute hunger. So history is there. Well, Microsoft started with this puppy in phase 1. They called it the Project Natick. This was in 2015, long ago, before her time had name. So 2015, they called it Leona Philippot. Basically, that puppy was 9 meter deep, this small one. And this was just a proof of concept. A, can we have a computer? B, can we put it in a chamber that is sealed enough for C, 24 into 7 submersion, and just like forget about it, put and forget, and will it work or not? So that puppy was done in Pacific Ocean for 105 days, and they dunked it, and it was like kaput, and it worked. It proved the concept, right? It was good. Okay. Then they went to phase 2 and they finally come up with a design where they were like, they could scale it. As in, everything was designed in such a way that it can fit in the same volume as a shipping container. The idea was that you should be able to manufacture it anywhere and ship it over sea, land, train, trucks, whatever have you. So they come up with the new system. Phase 2, this is in 2018, and this was done in Northern Isles, which was much colder, and this time they went deeper, 36 meter deep, and 12 rack puppies were used. Now, they also turbocharged it, as in removed the air from it and have pure nitrogen, as in dry nitrogen, as in they worked their ass off to make sure the humidity content is negligible, and they ran it, and they ran a clone hardware on the land itself. And their results were this puppy, basically thing that was undersea, it was 1/8 in terms of downtime, as in like failure rate, hardware failure rate, as in all that. So if you had the same hardware on land, it was 8 times more likely to go kaput compared to this puppy. So it worked and they built it. They actually dunked it for 2 years this time. And they're like, okay, if they had a proof of concept, then they scaled it up to something that could be shipped and could be manufactured. What the hell happened? Well, they cancelled the project. That cancellation was made public in 2024. Most likely it was cancelled in 2022 or 1, most likely. And again, public knowledge was like in 2024. They confirmed it, like, yeah, we have kapoted. And you're like, okay, why? If it worked, like if it was a real thing, they had proof of concept, they made a scale model and it worked, like they had like a, A/B testing and it worked, why did it cancel it? Well, simple reality is the technology at that point in time, as in like after 2020, was going at hyper stupid rapid pace. Meaning, if you make this server, you dunk it under the ocean, by the time the ROI of this will happen, some new graphics card will come in the market and it will make this so obsolete. It will be like, bro, buy 2-3 of these. It consumes so little power, it negates that puppy. It's like flat out, it's useless now. That's how quickly it was happening. Imagine this way, like smartphone takes their sweet time, like each generation, like 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, these are almost 10 years. And when you're talking about these things, they are swapping every 2 to 3 years. Like every 2 to 3 years, NVIDIA comes up with a new actual growth in silicon, or somebody else comes up with something. It's like, oh, we had like, let's say NVIDIA GPU. Let's assume that GPUs are really good, but here's the, what if, AMD released a new EPIC processor that is genuinely better, where it's like, oops, now it would be better to like, swap all the parts. You can't do on this, because while you can physically do it, that gantry and that all that is idiotically expensive. If you think professionals on land are expensive, anybody who touches ocean is like, price is like, don't ask. Don't ask. If you have to ask, you can't afford it. So that's the history of it. They made a proof of concept, they made a full scale model, and the results were very encouraging. But reality was the world was changing way too rapidly for this to ever pay back. So that leads us to the paradox of this puppy, as in tubes do not have enough surface area, and this was another aspect they learned. Like you would think, okay, we have a lot of heat and we have a cold medium, it will be awesome. But no, why? Because this is made out of steel. If you know anything about steel, steel is not really a good conductor. Like it's ironic, but if you ever worked with 3D printer, you know it has a heat break. It's made out of steel. So steel is not a good material for conduction, meaning the inside of the tube has to be very hot in order to dump heat. Penalty, you are back to square one. Like the core itself could be heating as high as like 70 or worst case scenario 120 degrees Celsius if you're dumping megawatts of heat into it. So you had to create a radiator. And at that point in time, what's the point? If you have to make a radiator, like, they show the tubes, they never show you the radiator. If you have to make a radiator, just have a radiator like how Sydney Opera House does that. Like it takes all the heat. Instead of having giant cooling towers, it just dumps it into the sea. And all it needs is a radiator. The end. Radiator that is being cooled by seawater. Done. Go home. So that's the whole bitter reality of it. And again, I'm pretty sure Chinese models that they are coming online right now, they do have radiator, but they have never shared any crisp photo where I can like, oh, this is the radiator. But they have it. Like they have it. And another aspect is, you are talking about ocean. Ocean has biofouling, meaning if you put this puppy under there, there is something known as barnacles. Now, barnacles are brutal, bad, cruel creatures. And they make cement. I'm not even joking. They make cement somehow. And that is so bad. Like ship hull cannot handle it. This will cover it up. And penalty of that is it's like creating an insulation layer. Yeah, you will cook that puppy. So biofouling, and again, that's just one element, barnacles. There are other elements also. So that's bad. Another aspect is corrosion. It is salty water. Like it is bad salty water. Like how the heck they deal with it? They cannot deal with it. Like flat out. If you have salty water going through a radiator, yeah, radiator kaput. So what they do, they have sacrificial metal. Like they are just wasting metal away, oxidizing metal away just so they can save the precious material. Like you may require like some sort of titanium, platinum alloy material to like, I got this. And even if you have a titanium as a main structure and platinum as a insulation layer, insulation as in like oxidation insulation, I'm pretty sure just the erosion of salty water would erode it away. Like it will not corrode, but it will erode. So you can understand it gets expensive way too quickly. You will start to like, hey, and running cost will be like, no, that will happen way too quickly. And all the benefit, right? All the benefit that you want to get, you can get by being in the coast, be on land. Like done. You'll get all the benefit. Just dunk the radiator, like just dunk the radiator under water. The end. You get exactly the same benefit. Or pull the water from the deep and run it through your heat exchanger. Done. Same thing. And people are realizing that why fight with this heat. If you have that much heat, it can be supported with district heating, meaning if you are burning megawatts of energy and let's say some European grid is already burning megawatts of heat for district heating, why not couple these two puppy? Everybody wins. Another aspect is, what if you are doing it in India or some other places where you have cooling requirement? Cool, you still get cooling. Now, of course, it will not be as efficient. Best case scenario, COP would be very low, as in like 0.25. But again, tens of megawatt if you have, and cooling is only 2-3 megawatts, at least 2-3 megawatts of cooling load has been removed from the electrical grid. That is useful utilization of waste heat. So you can get heating, perfect efficiency, cooling, decent efficiency, or in case of India, where like you do not have district unit, you can make water out of it. Be in the coast, take it into what we call low temperature thermal desalination. Ta-da! You get distilled water. Instead of drinking water, you make water. And water is a commodity that we can have all of it. Like you have water, yes. How much water? Does not matter. Water. So that gives you far more useful system, meaning even if your structure cost, which again I'm pretty sure this tube itself alone cost more than that, so because again the deeper you want to go, the higher the pressure, the more heavier the steel would be. So all those things considered is like, yeah, it does not work as well. And be mindful, we are not in an era right now, this current hype of AI, we are not in the era where it's like, put and forget. So this whole idea, oh, Chinese people have built the system, they can put in. It's like, yeah, but like if they put it, and of course they can't pull it out every month. It will not be economical. It has to be pulled out like years to justify it, because again, that boat is expensive. So it's like, how do you justify it? Like the hardware would be outdated. Like, of course, I could see some scenarios, like let's say some governmental secret office where they have some sort of encryption key or some sort of data reservoir, data repository, which they need absolute security. It could be interesting, but really pushing it, let that be very clear. They're just pushing it at that point in time. So And again, high labor cost. Labor cost goes exponentially as years go up and as inflation goes stupid. So that creates the issue. It's like you're not getting that much benefit. I have seen, to be fair, I have seen more logical approach in China where they're like, hey, we are building wind turbines, and these megawatt class wind turbines, like 10 megawatt or 12 megawatt, those are bonkersly used. The shaft of that turbine is huge. So they're like, hey, why not put servers at the bottom of that? And they are doing that. That's far more logical. And again, they have the same system. They have CPUs that are boiling the refrigerant. Refrigerant is going into shell and tube heat exchanger. The shell of that shell and tube heat exchanger is being cooled by seawater. So that is far more like you are already building that infrastructure. You already have individual going there, like and again you have HVDC headquarter there. So you have a lot of auxiliary hardware already there. Utilizing that is like, you know, doing double dipping. It could make sense. This I rarely see any point. And again, Microsoft did that. It's like we tried it, bro. Barnacles is like, no, bro. So fundamentally, I would say this sounds cool, but like unless you're doing that wind turbine system, and again, if you really want to do it, just do it on a coast. You'll get all the benefit without the hassle. And be mindful, you do have to worry about ship anchors destroying things and other things destroying things, including other biological animal destroying things. So again, we have to deal with this sort of thing for undersea fiber cables. It's bad out there. So there is paradox. It like sounds good, but it's like this option is far more logical. It's like have it on land, dump the radiator into the water, and figure out how to compensate for it, or use that heat utilize in some sort of utilization. That would be even better. All those options are far more logical, scalable today than like, okay, let's dunk it and then worry about like, oh, how the heck we'll pay? Because again, I can guarantee you in every year, the ship cost, hourly cost will be going up. Like, hey, it was like, you know, $500 per hour. Now it's $550 per hour. Yeah. So this was a presentation on basically what happened to this idea of like dunking the servers into the ocean. It's not that logical. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free. And as always, thanks for watching.